Hello and welcome to another edition of the Mexican Soccer Show. I'm your host, Cesar Hernandez. We're here to talk about the Liga MX final. We're here to talk about the Mexican national team. We're, of course, here to talk about Chicharito and his new record for El Tri. Before we get into that, let me first introduce today's guest. We're in Guadalajara. We have Tom Marshall. Tom, how you doing? I'm sure there might be some sort of celebration going on over there in Guadalajara right now.
Yeah, it's been a bit hectic, but yeah, Chivas champion. You know, living in 9 years, they've never been close. They've never been close. And I thought even yesterday when, until Chivas went 2-0 up, I didn't think they'd do it. I mean, I just didn't think it was going to happen. I just thought, no, Tigres are going to find a way here, no problem. And then all of a sudden, that second goal, and it's like, no way, this is on. Yeah, I mean, just crazy scenes yesterday at the stadium, and just a real privilege to be there and cover the game, really.
Yeah, no, we're definitely going to get into that later and talk about that exciting performance from Chivas that second leg. Let's go over to Jason Markowitz in Philadelphia. Jason, how are you doing? I assume you got a chance to watch the game as well.
Yeah, I happened to catch that one.
Are there people in Philadelphia just just running all over the streets the same way?
Yeah, the streets in suburban Philadelphia just went insane with the Liga MX final.
The Rocky steps are swamped with Chivas fans.
That's right. So I just joined in, be part of the crowd. So.
Nayib Moran over in Mexico City. How you doing, Nayib?
Buenas noches, Cesar, Jason, Tom. Yeah, I mean, I think it was over the 180 minutes, it was a good showing from Chivas, no? The way that they kind of frustrated and stopped Tigres. I think it was they had all the odds against them. I mean, you saw the predictions. The SBI predictor from ESPN was like 70 for Tigres, 30 for Chivas. And the upset happened. And the upset happened big time. So we'll talk a little bit more about it and as the show moves along.
Yeah. So, guys, let's go into the lead question. Obviously, Chivas fans are overjoyed about yesterday's result, unanticipated result. But I want to ask you guys, which fan base is the most bitter after what happened on Sunday night? Is it Tigres fans after the penalty call, which didn't happen at the end of the match? Is it America fans for the fact that Chivas are now level with titles, or is it Cruz Azul fans who they're hoping that maybe some of those there'd be a little bit of Cruz Azuliada right there where Chivas would struggle and let a couple in late goals there? And I'm going to go over to Jason first. Jason, who which fan base is the most bothered, most perturbed by this result?
I mean, I'd have to think Tigres, just because of that, the way it ended. I mean, coming so close, coming in as the favorites, and then with the second leg being in Guadalajara, and I think kind of feeling put down and let down by some of the officiating and some of the calls. I think Tigres fans were none too pleased at the final whistle, understandably so, last night.
Tom, which fan base is most bitter about this result?
Difficult question, isn't it? I mean, I'll throw in the Atlas one there as well. Because I'll throw that one in because I tell you what, in Guadalajara, that Chivas rivalry is greater than the Chivas America rivalry, no doubt about it. Chivas make every opportunity. Even yesterday, there were songs about Atlas. And so I think that, the Atlas fans watching them, and, I've got friends here and who are Atlas fans, and they absolutely hated Chivas winning the title. They absolutely hated it. But yeah, I think Club America, because it's the 12 titles, and Chivas have leveled them, and really after not making a final for 11 years, it's not like they've been really close and pushing. They've not made a semi-final for, I think they made one semi-final in the last 5-6 years.
Yeah.
So yeah, but I think at the end of the day, it's gonna be Tigres because of what Jason said basically, and because of all the money they put in, and the fact this was the second final of the season in the space of a couple of months, and they've lost both of them. And it was like that defeat yesterday. What was so close to being a back-to-back championships, 3 championships in 4 seasons. The return on all that investment that Cemex has put into the club. And then all of a sudden it kind of blew up, and it's like it's not happening. It's just not happening. So yeah, I'd say Tigres right now.
All right, we got 2 for Tigres. Nayib, you're over in Mexico City. Is it America fans who should feel most bitter, or are you going to agree and say that it's
I think based on what Jason and Tom said, I would lean to Tigres. With America, I think they have a chance to restart. Well, actually, they're going to restart tomorrow with Piojo Herrera being presented as a new head coach, and Herrera sort of signifies a lot of positivity and optimism in America. So I think it's just a challenge for America. It's once again, you have the two biggest clubs in Mexico go head to head, fighting to be who's the best. Now I think they're on par in a sense, because there was a point that America would come in liguilla after liguilla after liguilla, and Chivas was inconsistent. And now I think Chivas has found that consistency. And as Jorge Vergara told Tom, it's a start of a new era.
Yeah.
It's start of a new era for Chivas.
And
George. So I think for America, I think it's just this possibility to once again be head to head with the biggest rival. And for Tigres, I think it's just two finals, losing two finals at the start of the year. I think it's a big hit, and this one felt different because this particular season, because of the way that they arrived to the final. I mean, they were crushing every opponent, and when the final came, they sort of couldn't find the back of the net.
Yeah. Jason, I want to hear, what did the people say? Who cares about what we have to say? Actually, what did the people say? So you put up a Twitter poll. What were the results and any of the responses on Twitter from that question?
The Twitter poll was pretty evenly split between America and Tigres. 45% implying that America the most bitter, 44% saying Tigres the most bitter. About almost 200 people replying, so it was pretty even split. 11% with the Cruz Azul answer there, which is kind of a joke. But actually, a couple really positive responses on Twitter. Which I don't know. We don't normally go to Twitter for the positivity, but there were a couple that were interesting replies to our question. One coming from Omar Santos saying that he's a Tigres fan, but he's not bitter at all because he's proud that his team is in this golden era. And just kind of can't win them all, but we're going to keep going kind of thing. So real positivity there. And also R. Quintanar, 1987, said that he was an America fan, but he likes that Chivas won, and saying that the Clásicos are better because when everyone's doing well, when Chivas is doing well, it makes the games better. So I'm not sure that's representative of the entire fan base, but certainly some positivity coming through Twitter. So that's always good, at least from our fan base. So that's nice.
Yeah. All right, guys, let's talk about the actual final. Tigres not almost accustomed that talk about Tigres, because it felt like this whole series we're talking about how powerful Tigres are, how they're clearly the favorites here. But that's not what happened last night. What happened was that Chivas beat them 2-1. They got the 4-3 aggregate win. So Tom, I'm going to go to you with this question. What made Chivas so successful against this team that is supposed to be Mexico's best roster?
I think intensity, work rate, and I think finishing in the final third came together in the final. I think there's two main factors. Let's not forget Chivas has spent a lot of money on quality players. Orbelin Pineda is absolute quality. He's young, but he was already proven in the Liga MX. So Rodolfo Pizarro, exactly the same. Alan Pulido, a bit of a risk, but big money comes in, and the quality on that finish, that's quality. Not every player can score that. You got to be good. And then I think you match that with unbelievable work rate. I mean, I was reading the Guadalajara papers this morning, and that's what shines through. It's just like they just ran and then ran and ran, and every time a Tigres player got the ball, there was a Chivas player just right behind him, snapping at his heels, and just giving him no space and time on the ball. And that's how they beat Tigres. They stopped Tigres playing. They stopped Tigres being given the kind of freedom to recycle the ball from one side of the pitch to the other and wait and pick holes. They restricted that time that they had on the ball to make the decisions. But also, crucially, moving forward, they caused a constant threat. And Tigres were never comfortable defensively either, and that was because of Chivas and what they did. But It was a. I tell you what. After the first leg, I thought, I predicted Tigres were going to win the title on the Sunday, and
we all did, didn't we? Everyone was.
Yeah. But I mean, before the first leg, I thought, right, if Chivas can come out of the first leg reasonably placed, then they've got a good chance. But then I just thought, before the game on Sunday, I thought Chivas have got to do what they did on Thursday as a bare minimum, and then they've got to do something else as well. And I just think it's too much. But no, they did it. They played equally as well against Thursday as on Thursday, and upped it a little bit as well. And you know, for those players, I just thought it was a really, really, really top achievement from Mateus Almeyda and the players. I mean, some of those players you look around like Chapo Sanchez and, you know, even Aris Hernandez, and I don't know, the way they've developed has been absolutely sensational, you know, to be in a championship winning team.
Yeah. Yeah, that Pulido goal, I mean, I got to say too, at first when he hit that ball, I thought he mistimed it and I posted on Twitter, but then when you watch that replay, that was just incredible. That like confidence and that technical ability just to pass it into the back of the net. And that was incredible. So now you know, very quickly, you know, what caused Tigres to slow down? Tom was just talking about how, you know, Chivas stepped up and they, at the bare minimum, they had to have an excellent performance. And that's something they did. And like you said, they're just constantly running. They're always like a step behind them. But does this more have to do with Chivas doing very well, or just Tigres just kind of struggling?
I think Chivas did phenomenal. I mean, I think it confused Tuca because look, in the first leg he started Celarrayan. The second leg he went with them because he thought with them he was going to find that open space and the speed on the flank. And there was a play early on in the match where, you know, Rodolfo Cota came out great and was able to take the ball away from them. But that was a great, clear scoring opportunity for Tigres that maybe a week ago it would have gone in. You know, the thing here with Tigres is that they came into this series scoring a bunch of goals. And when it came, I think they did lack the finishing. The finishing wasn't that fine-tuned for Tigres. But I also have to put, you know, you have to highlight Chivas's energy, its composure in the defense, you know, with the three-man backline, you know, Salcido, Pereira, and Alanis. And I think that played a key role. And also, let's not forget about Gallito Vázquez. Gallito Vázquez, in that role of being in front of the defenders, was crucial. And he equally participated in defense and in offense. That's why he scored the goal yesterday. So a lot of effort goes to Chivas, but we also have to sort of point out and consider that maybe Tigres did lack a little bit of finishing. You know, they weren't that composed as they were in the quarterfinals and the semifinals. A lot of frustration was shown from, for example, Gignac, and we saw how crazy he was after the game. But it was that was just that frustration provoked by Chivas defense, you know, throughout the whole 180 minutes.
I mean, you could definitely see that at the end of the match. He was definitely extremely frustrated there, as were a lot of other Tigres players too. Jason, you know, looking back from Sunday's match, you know, who would you decide were the best and the worst from either side? Like, if you had to, you know, choose a few to stand out.
Well, I'd say Nayib had a couple good shots for some of those Chivas players that I think really stood out. Mentioning like Salcedo, Alanis in the defense. I think that ball that Alanis put in for Pulido, I mean, the Pulido goal was incredible, but that ball was perfect and pretty incredible as well. So, and also Gallito as well. Just like you said, the work rate just all over the field, really stunting that Tigres attack. But I mean, I really look at the three players in that attack with Pulido, Pizarro, and Oberlin, just going forward and causing so much problems for Tigres, especially Alan Pulido. Erase the goal. His match in the last night was incredible. Even without the goal was incredible. He was all over the entire field, back stripping the ball off players back in his own box, to going forward and putting pressure on Tigres' back line. It's just an amazing game for Pulido. So I mean, he's the guy above anyone that stuck out for me. For Tigres, I think they had a few players that really stuck out. I think Sosa had a really good game. And he looked always the one, and he did eventually get that goal. But for me, he looked like always the one that was going to break through and get that goal. And I think Aquino played pretty well as well, and he looked dangerous at various points in that game. But as far as like the disappointing side, not too much disappointment on the Chivas side, really. You can maybe point to Jair Pereira for almost giving up that penalty maybe at the end. That wasn't the best moment, but I mean, it's hard to fault anything with Chivas, or certainly their back line, for the performance they put in over the 180 minutes. On the Tigres side, I don't know. I don't think it was a really case of like players on the Tigres side letting them down as much as just Chivas were the better team in the way they played and they had the better performance. But I mean, I think one of the linchpins and is crucial in that midfield is Guido Pizarro. And I don't think he necessarily had his best performance. I think that had a lot to do with what Orbelin was doing right around him. But Guido Pizarro, I think if he had maybe a better game, a better performance, maybe that could have been a difference. So a bit disappointing from him, I suppose.
And we can't forget about the howlers, no? We can't forget about Nahuel Guzman's howlers in the first leg. That, you know, those are errors that you can't commit in a final. I mean, and I think that is sort of the red mark right besides Nahuel's name. And you say, well, why the heck do you do that? Like, why are you doing it? Or what is that like something that is part of his game that he has to fix? Or it's just strange the way that he messed up in that first leg, no?
Yeah, no, I think, you could argue that was the difference. I mean, take away everything else, how good Chivas were. You know, at the end of the day, that was, you know, if he doesn't make those two errors in the first leg, especially the what was it, the first one for Pulido?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that was one that can definitely be avoided. So
this is a guy. This isn't just Liga MX goalkeeper too. This is a guy who's called up by the Argentine national team. You know, this is a guy who's supposed to be at that level. When you see that happen, it's just I know it's I don't know. I don't know what to make of Nahuel sometimes. I don't like. I put out a tweet. It was kind of a joke. I said, "Is he the best worst Liga MX goalkeeper or the worst best?" But just I feel like he's capable of those.
But look, last season he saved 3 penalties in the and you think like he won the penalty shootout against America.
Yeah, like penalty goalkeeper and like actual goalkeeper when you're making decisions and doing different things can be very different things. So I mean, I think he's just a bit of a wild card. You don't always know what you're going to get from him.
I just think technically he's not a brilliant goalkeeper, and I think in those first 2 goals, technically he wasn't in the right positions, and that's why the ball ended up where it did. He didn't parry the ball away from goal on those first 2 goals in the first leg, but. I think I love him. I love his personality. You know, I want him in goal for me. I'd forgive him that because he's got such a personality, and I think that I like what he kind of transmits to the team. You know, and he's good with his feet as well. But you know, that's why he's not a top keeper. You know, it's one of those where if you go to a top club, like a bit like David De Gea when he went to Manchester United, and he struggled so much at first, and he basically had to refine his whole technique. And it's almost like Guzman could have done with something like that. I think it's too late for him now, but you know, I mean, that's just what he is. I think if you have him in goal, then you accept that he's going to make those kind of errors now and then. All
right, guys, here's a question that everybody wants an answer for. I think we might all agree on this, but I'm interested to hear what you guys have to say. Was it a penalty? We know exactly what I'm talking about. The last moment of the match. It could have been a pivotal, monumental moment in this series. Tom, we're gonna go back to you. Was it a penalty?
I think it was a penalty, mate. Yeah, and I know that the issue about the offside, but I don't know. Maybe you can answer because I was at the game. I didn't see all the kind of the TV and the analysing and stuff like that. So you don't really get. I've not seen a lot of that. Obviously in the written press, but for me, it's like I know the offside was given and people said he was offside, but was Damian Alvarez not? Was he interfering with play at that point? I mean.
No, I don't
that's the thing that I don't understand. but I don't understand it because former referees have said, "Oh, it was the correct decision." So I don't know. I'm assuming that I'm wrong because I'm not a professional referee. Yeah. But from my position, it's like was he interfering with play when that touch? And I think that more than anything, more than the rights and the wrongs about obviously you've got to stick to the rules. But at the same time, because there's no video replays in this game, then it's a perception thing, and I honestly think 7 or 8 times out of 10 in a normal game that is given for a penalty as a penalty. I'm watching from the press box, and that is an absolute penalty. I think anybody watching on TV was like, "That's a penalty," and I think 7-8 times out of 10 a referee would also be like, "That's just a penalty." I mean, so I think Chivas got lucky. Honestly, I think Chivas got lucky with that. Yeah. I think that, and you need that when you're in a final. And yeah, I mean that's my take on it. I thought Chivas got lucky, with the offside. Obviously Tigres were very upset about it. These things happen. I mean, What are you going to do?
Nayib, was it a penalty?
Yeah, it was. I mean, when you see it, when after the replay, like Tom says, you're watching the game on TV, so they repeat it like 5 times in a row, and you're able to see it. The thing here, what the players said, what Dueñas and Sosa said after the match is that Santander refereed all of Chivas home games in the Liguilla. And that sort of creates a little bit of conspiracy theories and say, well, why did Santander get picked for those 3 games?
Nayib, is that 100% true?
I mean, the journals that I've seen, they confirmed it that it was Santander, the 3 games.
Yeah,
we should have someone on the chat fact check that and see if.
Get fact checking.
But like I said, I mean, it is a tricky play there, you know. And it's hard because the stadium. That's where the stadiums play a role. I mean, referees to make those decisions. I mean, it gets to a question. And of course, you know, the referees in Mexico have been up and down. You know, I think if there's something that the Mexican game has to fix, it's the referees. You know, and there was even a strike this season, so you would expect a little bit of more consistency with the decisions and so forth. But it's a tricky ground there. You know,
But I think you get these decisions in Spain, you know, you get them in England, you get them. It's just, as long as referees are going to make these split decisions, the amount of pressure that guy's under at that moment of the game, it's unbelievable. But like you said, Nayib, with the crowd behind as well, it's just very difficult to give a decision. But I kind of understand. I thought the referee didn't have a bad game until that point. But there's a couple of decisions though and you just saw Gignac going mad, and there's like. I think he shot a goal and it was a clear deflection, like absolutely, like he gives it as a goal kick. And I just think, man, if you're a player, you're not supposed to, like, how have you not seen that? Like, everybody has seen that deflection. So you can kind of see Tigres were just so, I mean, you know, I don't know. People call Tigres, you know, so losers. And, you know, I think Gignac, if he actually struck the journalist like this, the Televisa journalist is claiming, then it's completely out of order. You know, but aside from that, you know, Vargas kind of not wanting his medal around his neck, you know, Gignac not going up for his medal. I don't care. I think if I'm a Tigres fan, I want to see that. I want to see, because they cared so much about winning that game. They were so desperate to win it, and was it a great image? No, but you know, I think, you know, who cares? I mean, they lost and they're annoyed and they're upset and they're angry, like, so they should be, like. If they want to, it just shows how desperate they are to win trophies. And I think that, I don't know, I mean, I'm saying this early, but just for next season, it's just like, watch out for Tigres. I mean, with a full pre-season behind them as well. I mean, let's not forget they had no pre-season. And I actually think in the final on Sunday, they caught with them. I think the last 20, 30 minutes, I just thought they had no intensity. I thought they struggled, and Chivas was still like kind of just a gear, you know, upper gear on them. You know, but I think come next season when they've got fresh legs and stuff, I just think I'm backing them right now for the league.
Tom, we have a schedule here. We're supposed to be talking about that at that point. You're skipping ahead. What are you doing, man? I just messed with you. All right. So quickly to wrap things up about the recap, Jason, I want to get your final opinion.
Yeah.
One last time.
Sure. I mean, I just think, I mean, it was certainly a penalty, and I think one thing I'll say, I think that official was fairly consistent through the match in not wanting to be the story. I think he was avoiding making the big decisions throughout. I think there could have been a whole bunch more cards in that game, especially the last 20 minutes with everything that was going on in that match. I mean, there could have been I mean, there was probably a few justifiable red cards along the way there. I think he didn't want to. I mean, this is obviously just speculative, but I think there's a part of him that didn't want to call the penalty that was going to decide that match at the end there. And
we forget they're humans sometimes.
Yeah, and it seemed like he was very much in the mode of letting them play throughout the match, and that was kind of a consistent throughout. Because there was a lot of physical play that wasn't called. There was a lot of just screaming in his face that he just kind of rolled with. So I mean, I'll say that for him at least. But yeah, I mean, all intents and purposes, it was the wrong call. I mean, it was certainly a penalty, but yeah, as Tom said, it's kind of the way it goes. I mean, you have it everywhere. It's just a bad break for Tigres and a lucky one for Chivas at that point.
All right, Tom, I've got the next question for you, except you're no longer Tom. You are Is Cesar drunk? Oh yeah.
What happened there? Who put that?
Tom, where did Chivas go from here? Do they keep the core? Do they? Is there a chance they might lose Almeyda? Is there, are they potentially losing some players over the summer? I want to know your thoughts. You're over there in Guadalajara. Give me your thoughts.
Yeah, I think that Vergara was saying last night that this is the beginning of a new chapter that he's excited about. I think that Almeyda needs to stay. I mean, it sounds like an obvious statement, but okay, Alaves, I think, made an offer for him to become the manager in La Liga. But, I mean, he's not going to go there. The problem with Almeyda is going to come, he's ambitious, he's clearly a very good manager. He knows how to get the group together, he plays good football. I mean, an Argentine managers are in demand. I mean, we've got Berizzo, who's probably going to Sevilla. San Paulo's just had a good season. Pochettino, what he's done at Tottenham is absolutely unbelievable, the work he's done there. Argentine managers have done well, and I think Almeyda's next on the list. I mean, I really think that a lot of, quite big European clubs are going to be looking at that yesterday. And looking what he's done with quite a young Chivas team and beating that Tigres side. And not just beating, but the way they did it. And I think they're going to make offers for him. And I think that's the big question moving forward for Chivas. I don't necessarily think a lot of players are going to leave. I think the big ones are Pizarro and Orbelin Pineda. But, I mean, they've not been there long. I mean, Pizarro especially. So, I mean, I don't know. I can't see him leaving right now, to be honest, especially considering how much Chivas paid for him. But, yeah, Almeyda's the big one. What happens there? Is he still hungry? Did he not just achieve everything that he came to do at the club? How dedicated is he to being here? I don't know. I think that's the big question for Chivas. And to be honest, I know Almeyda says he's going to stay for many years and all that, but if Lazio come in, I mean, he's a legend at Lazio. Lazio need a club. There's a real challenge there, in the Italian game. I mean, would Almeyda refuse Lazio if they came? That's my question.
And Jason, I'm going to go over to you on this one. Tom just talked about, how to Chivas go forward and how, what happens with Almeyda, but, how are, Tigres going to react to this? How are they going to react to this loss? Are they going to come back even more powerful? Just like Tom implied earlier, we're just, they could be pushing for a title for the, revenge after Sunday.
Yeah, you would think so. I mean, everything we've seen from Tigres, they don't seem to be slowing down. You would expect them to be a contender and certainly to have the fuel of these losses as kind of like that bulletin board material, using that kind of thing to kind of propel them toward contending next season. You would fully expect them to do so. And I totally agree with what Tom said earlier about having the full rest and not kind of getting off on the rough start and kind of putting themselves in a position where they had to have that second leg in Guadalajara rather than at home, and which could have made the difference in something like that. With a higher seed. So plowing through the regular season, going toward the Liga stronger, you could fully expect to see that. But at the same time, you have to think about, there could be some mental aspects to these tough losses that mount up. And sometimes that mental baggage could carry on. Speaking as a Cruz Azul fan, I know about mental baggage very well. So you have to consider that, those tough losses and how they could impact the team going forward. You never know, really. And obviously, they are dependent on a few players. I mean, it's obviously one of the deepest teams in the league and so much talent on that roster. But a few losses here or there, if they lost a couple of those key players, you could see a time of transition possibly. It's unlikely, but you can make the case for it, I suppose.
Yeah. Nayib, I want to go to you with this question. So we've talked about, Tigres potentially coming back stronger. We saw the reaction too, and Tom also said that from a Tigres fan perspective, that's what you want to see. Just like Gignac not showing up. Vargas, I don't know if you guys have seen that video, but they tried putting the medal over his head, and he refused. He tried to take it away, and they put it over his head, and he took it off. Your thoughts on that from how Tigres reacted from that, and also that same question I asked Jason, which is, does this kind of all lead into them kind of getting the revenge next season? Are they going to come back even stronger?
I think Tuca will have to do a lot of thinking, because he lost two finals against probably the two best young coaches in Liga MX, Almeyda and Diego Alonso, who I think, those two are probably going to go to Europe at one point. So the refreshment of ideas or what can he do different to confront the situations when when he's put as a favorite. You know, I think in definitely these two finals that Tigres played this year, the favorite was Tigres, and they weren't able to sort of make that happen, you know, and win the whole thing. In 12 finals with Tuca, Tigres has 7 losses, 7 subcampeonatos, and 5 wins, 5 championships in those 12 times. Tuca says a lot about that, about, you know, reaching finals as being the important thing, and I think that's good. But like Jason said, I mean, the more subcampeonatos you have, the idea, the romance that perhaps existed dies down, you know, because fans don't just want to reach the finals, they want to win them. Right. But you know, I think we have to see. We gotta wait what Gignac wants, because you know the offers from China have been coming big time in the past 6 months.
Seems like he loves Tigres, doesn't he? He's got like.
But you never know. I mean,
but the only thing I'd say about that though as well, I mean, just thinking about that today and what's happened yesterday, where you know there's this journalist accusing him of hitting him, and you know I don't know, just it's been very negative, the press, since the final, about him being arrogant, and you know who's this French guy coming in and he's just, you know, he can't take a loss, and I don't know. I mean, there's been heavy criticism, and you know he walked past the mix zone. So one of my friends chatted to him briefly, and he was angry, he was rude, and like I don't know. I mean, I just feel like what else is he gonna do? There's no Copa Libertadores anymore. You know, they've got the CONCACAF Champions League that's coming around in 1 year. I mean, I think Gignac's contract has only got 1 year to run as well. But at the same time, I mean, if Gignac, 31 years old, wants to, I mean, you know, there's a rumor of like Valencia, I think. If he wants to play in La Liga, if he still retains just a little bit of desire, then, you know, this is the time. And I'd question what else he can achieve in Mexico. He's already an absolute star. You know, he's the hero of the Tigres faithful. It wouldn't completely surprise me if, you know, Gignac considered leaving at least.
And I guess what he's accomplished in the short amount of time that he's been in Mexico is what people wish that they would accomplish in their entire career in Mexico. And I guess that's something to keep in mind too, is like what else that he can accomplish in Mexico at this point, since, you know, he can't do the Copa Libertadores, at least in the near future.
Yeah, and real quick about Almeyda, I think it will be interesting to see what he wants as well. I mean, I think that offer from Alaves will be real. You know, because Mauricio Pellegrino, the former coach of Alaves, is already out. You know, it was officially announced. So it is an open space there. Of course, it's not your Sevilla, it's not your Celta, but it gets you there. You know, it gets you there. And this is not just about Almeyda. I think his coaching staff in general is remarkable. You know, I think that the great things are spoken about his second coach, about his physical trainers, the whole staff. I mean, it's not just about Almeyda. It's a great staff that can easily fit in the setting in Spain, for example. And even if it's Alaves, that gets you there. Then from Alaves, you climb. I mean, it's what happened with Berizzo. Berizzo arrived with Celta when Celta was nothing. Now he's going to Sevilla, a recognized club. You got to start somewhere. And I'm pretty sure Alaves is not going to offer the same money that Chivas is offering him. No, but the prospect of being in Europe is really seductive.
But I just think I don't completely agree. Yeah, it is. I mean, I agree and I don't agree. I just think Almeyda's name. Well, I think two things. Almeyda's name, I think, gets him in a big Italian club. You know. Yeah. With what he's done at River and what he's done at Chivas, I think that gets him in an Italian club. You know, and it might get you in a decent. You know, like Celta looking for a coach now. You know, which I don't know. But I don't even think he's going to be tempted by that. I think he's going to be tempted by a properly big club in Europe. Yeah. And I say that because, you know, just witnessing it last night, you're not going to witnessing that atmosphere in Estadio Chivas and the celebrations at La Minerva. And Almeyda's right. There's not many clubs bigger than Chivas in the world. And when you get that, I don't know, last night you really felt that, you know, you're going to struggle to replicate that kind of atmosphere. And he's got a team now that's young, that's kind of, you know, that can go on to achieve some big things in the next couple of years, to enjoy more nights like, you know, Sunday night. And I just think it's, you know, I understand the point about going to Europe, but I think Almeyda can skip that step. I think he's a big enough name. I think he's done enough in his short coaching career so far. even if it's not Spain, to go to a club, like I said, an Italian club is very well known, probably better known in Italy than Spain. I think at some point, Inter Milan or Lazio are going to come in. They're going to take a risk, and I don't think it'll be a massive risk, to be honest, because you just see Almeyda, and I don't know. I've seen from my time covering Mexican football, very few managers that you just instantly like, this guy is just going to be successful. Like, he walks into the room, he's humble, but at the same time, he's not afraid to kind of throw out. Like in his first press conference with Chivas, he's like, "I'm here to awaken the giant. I'm not here to avoid relegation. I'm not here to do I'm in a big club, one of the world's biggest clubs, and I'm here to awaken it." And I mean, it's like, but he does it with a kind of humility as well. And I think that, and he does it with an attractive playing style. And if you're a club owner, Almeyda he's a hot commodity. I mean, he really is somebody that I think is going to have a really good career in coaching. And it's just Chivas have to try to keep him with absolutely everything.
Yeah, we'll see if he sticks around. Obviously, congrats to all the Chivas fans out there. You got the 12th title. You're now equal with Club America. And yeah, let's see what happens. Not only just the future of for Chivas, but like we all just talked about for Tigres. But we got to switch gears. We got to talk about. There was another big match. I mean, that's just the madness of Mexican soccer. Believe it or not, the day before that final, there was an actual Mexican national team friendly, and that wasn't exactly the best result for El Tri. We were all, in the same way that we're all anticipating, victory for Tigres, we were all saying probably something along the same lines for Mexico in that match. We thought there was going to be no trouble against this Croatian roster, and then, I mean, I was there at the match, and I talked to a Croatian fan who told me, he's like, nope, this is our C team. Mexico's going to win 3-1. And then Croatia won 2-1 over in the LA Memorial Coliseum. Jason, just really quickly from that match, what stood out? What are your takeaways, and what really stood out to you, at least from the players? I know, this is the Mexican soccer show. I don't know if we should really focus on any of the standout players from the Croatia, but anything from the Mexican side, especially in that second half.
Well, I will say, like, again, I've seen, like, I don't know, the one player that always confounds me more than anyone, I think, is Diego Reyes. And I think this is a player that we've pinned a lot of, at least I have, seeing him play with America and seeing the potential in him. I had a lot of hopes for what he was going to be. And, I mean, it's ridiculous to pin, like, the next Rafa Marquez on someone. But, I mean, he had that. He was in that conversation for being that guy who was going to be. You saw that stalwart defensive player could come out, play the ball, play into the midfield. It just made a lot of sense. And he's had a good career, and he's playing well in Espanyol. Yet, I've seen him be the worst player on the field for El Tri, like at least a handful of times now. The worst player, and I think we saw it again. Now, you have to put out the caveat that this was a friendly. Yeah. You have a mixed squad. You're playing against a different roster. And this is not to say that this is a terrible player, but again, it was another disappointing performance from Diego Reyes for me. As far as standouts, I don't know. It was tough. I think when we saw Guardado come on, there was a clear difference in the midfield, kind of reinforcing his importance for the team. I think Jonathan Dos Santos, again, seems like a solid contributor to that midfield. And I think there's still some questions, and I think the questions around Hector Herrera's place in the starting 11 are kind of blinking in red and shining for me at this point. I'm not so sure he's going to be that regular starter anymore at this point.
Yeah. Now, Jason just said that there are some questions there, and I think a lot of those questions were from that first half with some of those backup fringe options. I mean, is there anything that Mexico fans, including myself, I've got the flag back there, not about wearing the jersey, maybe if Mexico won, but is there anything that Mexico fans or the national team should be worried about after that result?
No, I don't think so. I think, look, this is difficult. I mean, I think I could consider it really impressive for the players to skip vacations, to have, at least 1 week off. And no, there was no week off. They finished the season, then they came to Mexico City and started training. And there was comments, even Guardado, saying that, these friendlies, I don't know if they really helpful, for some reason. But, it's part of the contract, as we know. But I don't think they got to worry about it. I mean, I think the team, when we saw the best players in the second half, everything sort of started to come back to normal. But like Jason said, with these wasted opportunities, I mean, because it was a wasted opportunity from Diego Reyes. I mean, you can't make those mistakes, those egregious mistakes, because it's not. It's pretty simple. I mean, I think it's just sort of like a brain freeze from Diego Reyes in a sense, or I don't know if it's pressure or anything. But the thing is, it's like how we were talking with Nahuel Guzman. There's gonna be games where he's gonna be a stellar, and there's gonna be other games that he's gonna be crappy. Well, Diego Reyes scored a goal in Trinidad. Tom was there, and that was the goal that got the win for Mexico. So sometimes it's gonna work out, sometimes it doesn't. But I think
that was also a bad game from him too, wasn't it? I thought that was a bad game for him before he scored that goal. I don't know.
But that's what football's all about. Football is probably one of the craziest sport, because of all this stuff that happens on the pitch. It's just so many details, you know, and we've in this show in the last 30 minutes, all the details that we talked about is insane. But with Reyes, I think it's important for Mexico to have him stabilized or be the way that Reyes. Right now, Reyes is nominated as one of the best center backs in La Liga, with Sergio Ramos, Gerard Piqué, and Diego Godin. I mean, come on, if you make that group, you have to have something. I mean, you can't just make it, you know, it's like, oh, no, Diego Reyes is trash. No, there's something special about him. It's just that when it comes to the national team, there's this inside pressure that it's just not working out with him.
Yeah, I almost think, does he need a run? I mean, to be fair to him, you know, to put up an argument, you know, in his favour, does he need a run in the team where he plays in one position, he knows what he's got to do, and like, I don't wonder. Sorry, it's not going to happen, but I just feel like he's never been a solid starter under anybody, like, and is that what he actually needs? Especially now he's playing so well with Espanyol in La Liga. I mean, I'm not sure. But yeah, I mean, I thought in terms of the game in general, I mean, I tell you what, I hope it's like a kick up the backside, because I thought you can't be losing concentration against it. I mean, it was almost like they took Croatia lightly in the first half, and that's not good. I mean, Mexico could play 17 games between last Saturday and the end of July, and I hope they weren't being complacent then. You know, in the first game. If there is a positive, hopefully that's kind of like a cold bucket of water, and be like, you know what, that was Croatia's C team, and you lost, and that wasn't a really weak Mexico team. Yeah. So you know, there's a lot of really difficult games coming up for Mexico. Honduras at home won't be easy. You know, the United States isn't going to be easy, and then no game in the Confederations Cup, maybe apart from New Zealand, is going to be easy. So yeah, there's not much room for error this summer for Mexico.
I mean, I guess you could say, I didn't really think about this until now, that if there was a time during this summer for Mexico to lose a match, it would be during that friendly. Like if you were to choose some time, it'd be there, where it's just kind of wakes them up. Like you said, it kind of makes them realize that this isn't going to be as easy as they think it's going to be, that they're going to have to find some sort of organization before this summer that's not just World Cup qualifiers, but also the Confederations Cup and the Gold Cup. But Tom, there's also another positive from this match, which I want to go back to you on, is there's a certain striker which may or may not be a superstar in the Mexican national team, and he may or may not have scored, what was it, his 47th goal in his 91st cap for Mexico. So I just want to hear your thoughts, anything about Chicharito's goal, his historic goal, which now makes Mexico's all-time leading goal scorer.
Yeah, I mean, nice one. I think the celebrations for I think leveling Borghetti was the biggest one on it. Yeah. To be honest, because I think the pressure was on for a long time. Mm-hmm. I think this goal, honestly, it was going to happen. We knew it. It's not like he was going to stay on 46 goals. But I just think it's really, the real positive is that it's done now. It's out of the way. Like, forget it. He's the top scorer. Nice one. Yep. Obviously, he is. He's one of Mexico's best ever players. Like, and I think it's the monkey off the back now. And aside from that, the only thing I'd add is that, he's not had the best last few months, Chicharito. Mm-hmm. And I think that, it's good to see him scoring goals for the national team, because if the national team are going to do well this summer, you feel Chicharito has got to be on form. He's got to be banging in the goals, and I think that it's good to have him confident, and that's what you get from goals.
Nayib, so after this loss to Croatia, are our expectations going to be the same in this upcoming friendly? I'm looking a little forward now here to the Thursday match against Ireland. Is this still going to be? I mean, it seemed like with that first match, it should be. Let's give some backup options, some playing time. Let's give some fringe options some playing time. Let's see what happens. Or should it now be a situation where Mexico can't lose 2 in a row? Maybe put a little bit more of those guys who are more experienced, more maybe some of those European players. Are expectations going to be the same or different for the second friendly?
I mean, I think Ireland, the team that they're sending is actually, there's a lot of first division minutes there in top leagues, and especially over there in England. So it's a more competitive team on paper by the looks of it. I think he's going to go with his best 11 possible to start the match. And then in the second half, he's going to throw in the ones that are trying for a spot, especially the ones that are probably not going to make the final list. I just think it's important. You don't want to see players get injured here. I mean, we saw already Nestor Araujo coming back to Mexico. I don't know if he'll be. Hopefully, I'm hoping he'll be ready for the Confederations. He's a major part of Osorio's 11. So you don't want to see your main players get hurt in these matches. I mean, I think you got to be really careful because, like Tom says, this is an important June. Because you can win the ticket to the World Cup, and you also have the great possibility to do well in a tournament that a lot of people are going to watch. It might not be the World Cup or anything, but a lot of people are going to watch the Confederations, because it's the preamble to the World Cup. So I think it's really important to have your best possible players fit, and not tire them out in these friendlies that are known for preparation. And I think he has to really see that. I think the first 45 minutes we'll probably see it with Vela, with Guardado, Jonathan, Chicharito, and I think work that offense. Try to find some consistency with offense. It's probably going to be the same offense that we're going to see against the U.S. and Honduras. So it's going to be interesting to see exactly how he takes it. But on paper, this Ireland side looks more competitive than the Croatia side. So
I hope so. I hope so after looking at that Croatian roster.
Yeah, so we'll have to see exactly there with how he plans it out. I mean, I think Fabian is already in the camp as Salcedo and Raúl Jiménez, and also the Chivas players as well as the Tigres. So I think it gives them more options. No, it's gonna be around 30, 31 players. So there'll be a lot of substitutions in that one.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, the only player that's going to be missing is Giovanni Dos Santos, who's supposed to be due later. I don't know if you guys know any more on that, but I feel like
and Jesus Dueñas who's not coming.
That's right, Tom. Can you give us any updates on that? I think I saw something online, but it was right when we started the show, so I didn't really pay attention to that.
Yeah,
breaking news. There we go.
It's official.
Turn on the clocks on.
Dueñas isn't going because of personal problems. I don't know what's gone on. We don't in the FMF statement. They're not usually very illuminating, but they said absolutely nothing apart from what I've just said. He's not going because of personal issues. We don't know how long. We don't know what the personal issues are. We don't know if there's a replacement. I mean, I doubt it because they've got like loads of players. but it is a blow. And I think what Nayib was saying about Araujo. I mean, I think Osorio was talking about it today as well. It's like if you want to play a backline of 3, you need Araujo. Because you're going to play Rafa or Reyes in the middle because they can step into midfield or step back depending on what the opposition's doing. But, you've got Moreno obviously on the left, but you need Araujo. You need him there. And I think that it's a big blow not having Araujo. And like Nayib said, let's hope that he's ready for the Confederations. But I'd say Dueñas as well is a big blow.
Yeah.
I mean, we talked about Herrera before. And like Jason said, he's not a starter anymore. He's not an automatic starter. Well, I think prime position to take his place is Dueñas. I mean, I know people might make the argument for Orbelín Pineda, but I think Dueñas is he's mature. He's in the prime of his career, and he's just had the best season of his career. So it's a massive blow for me not having him, and he's so versatile as well. He can play so many positions that.
Yeah, there's little details there that Tom. Here, what the advantage here that Osorio has is these training sessions, and when you don't have those key figures like Araujo and Dueñas that you can sort of test things out. Well, all these training sessions kind of feel wasteful in a sense. All these days that you have with the team prior to these big matches. And another thing here with certain players, Layun, you know, with Layun, I think he needs to get that playing time. It has to keep on rolling because he didn't play for the last 2 months. So you need him to catch a good run of games. And these friendlies are important. I wouldn't be surprised if Layun plays the 90 minutes on Thursday.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised by that at all. Yeah.
And no, he needs it as well. He's not played since March 28th. I mean, that game, I thought he did reasonably well, let's say. And that was a massive 90 minutes for him. And I'm sure he's going to play at least an hour. He needs the minutes. And also Rafa Marquez is in line for minutes against Ireland. I mean, now that's, I think that's, I mean, it's positive. No?
Yeah.
I mean,
positive. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I just worry. The thing I worry about Rafa is that he's not played for so long now. I mean, if you look since like March, how many minutes he's played, and it's like, then you look at his age and you're like, step into big World Cup qualifying games off the back of a few minutes against Ireland in a amistoso, and then to go to the Confederations Cup and be, up against Portugal straight away, and Ronaldo's there.
Oh my God!
I don't know. I mean, Rafa, when he put in the performance against the States back in November, he was playing really well for Atlas. And I don't think people kind of recognize that he was in really good form. But this time he's not in form, he's not in rhythm, he's not even fully fit. And I think that's worrying.
No, that's definitely worrying because he was exceeding expectations. Now here's a guy who's still who knows how healthy he really is, how match fit he is for not only his friendly but for the this upcoming month. And Jason, we're already kind of like talking about this, about like whether Rafa's going to start, whether we can see some minutes for Layun. Is there any like surprise starters that you see maybe for this upcoming match, which could be a little bit of a precursor for the World Cup qualifiers?
I don't know. I mean, I think there's always potential for surprises with the Sorio's lineup, but I don't think there are a lot of players on this roster that would be shocking if they did start, because I think it is pretty wide open. But I mean, I think one player who might be pushing for that spot, and Tom mentioned him earlier with Orbelin. I mean, I think unlikely to really be carrying a heavy load because of his age, and I think because of the kind of logjam in the midfield. But I mean, this is a player that, at least as someone who's looking for Mexico to do as well as possible, this is a player I'd like to get into the main roster as quick as possible. Looking forward to, not necessarily even this summer, but next summer, and getting him as many minutes with Guardado and working with those players. I think that could be good. Right. So potential there. I think the guy I could see really taking some serious minutes and maybe a starting role is Marco Fabian. I think with the way that I think I think we put out that ideal players on the wings. I think we're going to put like Chucky and Tecatito out there. But I think Fabian is might just sneak in there and take one of those spots, because I think the way he's been playing, and I think Osorio kind of favors Marco Fabian out there, and I could see him getting a real run in these qualifiers.
It's interesting. The mix is really interesting now.
Especially in the attack, man. Especially in the attack. It's incredible, those options that you have.
I'd put Gio in there. I mean, Gio's playing really well, isn't he, in MLS? Yeah. I mean,
Gio's scoring a lot of goals. There, the topic, I think, of interest is Rafa Marquez's form, and how will Osorio sort of change it up if Marquez is not available. It's going to go with two holding midfielders kind of a deal. Or it's just going to go with one. Because there is potential. I mean, you see Guardado and what he does in PSV. You can put him in the center and put someone in there like Jonathan, but it doesn't have the height, which Osorio talks a lot about. So it's difficult. The combinations are possible. It's just finding the right fit.
We could do that versus Honduras, right? We can have Guardado in that defensive midfield position against Honduras. I don't know about against the United States, but maybe Guardado there in that defensive midfield position, because like you said, Nayib, I'm a big fan, and I don't know why a lot of people aren't more of a big fans, but just seeing him in that defensive midfield position. But guys, here, just to wrap up a little bit about the roster, wrap up at El Tri, I'm going to put you guys on the spot. If you were to add one player who's currently not on the roster, if you were to add him to the 32-man call-up, and if you were to take one out, who would they be? I'm gonna ask Jason first. The reason I'm gonna ask Jason first is because he presented this question, so I think he's prepared for this. I think
better have an answer. He better have an answer if he's making the
This probably already knows what he
I didn't
wants.
think about it.
So I'm going to go to Jason first. And while Jason's talking, we'll have Nayib and Tom
think.
Don't I'll steal your answer. I don't know. I think it's the guy we just watched in the final. I'd put Pizarro in there, Rodolfo Pizarro. I think I don't think Mexico is hurting for options in his position. But I think he's a player that, again, kind of in the Orbelin role, like a player I want him to kind of get those minutes with some of those other key starters for the national team. So I'd like to see him on the roster. As far as a player to bounce off, I could cheat and say Dueñas, right? Or maybe even take off the third keeper. But if I have to bounce somebody from that roster, I would say I know a lot of people appreciate his game. I'm not really a big proponent of Burrito Hernandez, so I'd probably send him packing. Unfortunately, not very fair for him. But if I had to pick someone, that'd be the guy to send home.
All right, so just to give,
I think
Burrito
Hernandez is like. No, I just think Burrito's like he's a good Liga MX player. I think I said it before, but why when someone just has a few good games, like national team is like there's quite a few players that are ahead of Burrito Hernandez for me in the holding midfield role. Yeah. And it's like, I don't know, I mean, there always seems to be these calls and it's like, Aris Hernandez, so good for Chivas, but he's not like and Chapo Sanchez as well. I don't know. I just think they're very good Liga MX players and that's fine. Like,
I think the fact that he didn't get a start the last match, or at least minutes, is not a good sign at all for Burrito Hernandez, and I think he's that first guy to be cut from the roster.
Yeah.
So really quickly, just to give Tom and Nayib a little bit more time, player I would bring on is Cesar Montes. I think it's inevitable. I know he's more so maybe like a Gold Cup player, but I wanted to be called up to the national team. I'd prefer to see him at least at the bench, just to be training with the team. And I'll take off, as much as I'm a big fan of this guy, I'm a huge fan of Jesus Gallardo, but I think he's been fairly inconsistent over the last season with Pumas, and we have a wealth of winger options. So that's what I would do. Tom, do you have your picks? Are you ready? You good to go? Should I go to Nayib first? I don't know. Are you good to go?
It's up to you.
All right, go, Tom. Tom, go for it.
I think I'd go Alan Pulido.
All right.
I think Pulido's of the last couple of games has just shown that he's absolutely in form. We all know strikers; that's what they feed off. He just scored, probably the most important goals of his life against Tigres in the final. And I think Mexico's struggling up front. I mean, obviously you got Chicharito. I don't know. I'd like another striker of that type up front. I don't know about Oribe Peralta getting on. I'd just like to see Pulido win. I don't know for the last few weeks, and then go Gallardo. I just think can't see him getting minutes if he's in the squad. I just can't imagine the circumstance where you think, what should we do here? Gio or Lozano or or Tecatito on the bench. Let's put Gallardo on. I mean, I just don't think it's going to happen. Yeah. And the same goes for Elias Hernandez. I think he's a good player, but I mean, we wouldn't go to him. He's not going to start, definitely. And I don't think you'd go to him even off the bench because I think there's that. So, but I don't know. I mean, I agree. He's a national team player. He's in the squad, but he said last night after the game that he's only 70% fit still. So, I don't know. It makes me think probably why it's just the Gold Cup. He plays like played.
No, Tom, you still there? Sorry, we're losing you a little bit. I don't know if anyone else can hear. Sorry. I guess we'll just go to Nayib. Tom, I don't know if you're done yet. We'll go to Nayib.
Yeah, we heard the point there with
What your thoughts, man?
No, I think it was a good point that Tom brought up about Pizarro not being 100%. But I just do feel. I mean, if we had to, And also the point about Pulido is actually good because how many strikers he's going to take? Is he going to take to the Confederations? Is it just going to be Chicharito and Raul Jimenez? Or is it going to be Chicharito and Peralta? Is it going to be 3? Do you think, Tom?
I think Chicharito. I think he can play it on the wing like he has done, like he did in Trinidad.
Oh. Oh.
So I mean, I will see. I mean,
sorry, Tom, I can't hear you that well. Sorry, back to you.
I think if in my case, I would say, for example, Pizarro for Gallardo.
Yeah.
You know, I think that would be my decision after hearing your thoughts, all of you. And unfortunately, you know, but I do recognize the fact that, you know, he's not a 70%. He's on 70% basically, or 80%, not totally fit. So I think that's the main question there with Pizarro. But Pizarro did phenomenal in the Liguilla, you know, and I think he's a new number 10 type of player. You know, and right now the number 10s, well, you know, you have Tecatito, you have Giovanni that can play that role, but I think Marco Fabian can also play the number 10 role. But Pizarro is up there, you know.
No,
Bella can also play it. Yeah.
Yep.
All right, guys. So just to quickly wrap up the show, I want to do 2 more quick things if you guys don't mind sticking around just for a few more minutes. I want to do a quick recap of Mexico, who are taking part in the U20 World Cup right now. I'm going to go over to Tom on this, although I don't know how his internet's doing right now. Tom, I might catch you up and then go back to Nayib. Tom, just give us your thoughts on Mexico's U20 performances so far, and maybe in an upcoming match that they're going to be having on Wednesday night / Thursday. I don't know. It's weird with that timing.
Not good. I think they really deserve to be in knockout rounds, to be honest. That's it.
Well, here, I'll give them. So Mexico right now, they have 1 draw, they have 1 win, 1 loss, and like Tom said, yeah, it's not exactly the best performance for the national team. The only win was against Vanuatu, and their
3-2 win. It wasn't really pretty either.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, a 3-2 win, which wasn't exactly like. I mean, you don't even have to really watch the matches to know that Mexico's struggling and really underwhelming at this.
I will say, like, I watched their draw with Germany. I think they played pretty well in that match. I think that's probably the best they performed in this tournament. But yeah, I think looking forward, it would be incredibly optimistic to think that this team is really going to make a deep run here. I think every match going forward is going to be a nail biter, and hoping for the best at this point. I don't. They haven't played very well thus far, so that there's not a lot of hope at this point. But you never know in these kind of tournaments, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, I think the fact that they made it out of the group stage is a good step in the right direction, because the last one actually didn't even make it out of the group stage, and it was a brilliant generation, you know, with Guti, with Chucky, and Orbelin leading the way. It's a team that really, heading into this tournament, didn't generate that much excitement, I think. You know, and the reason for that is because several of the players that could play for that team, you know, didn't make the trip, you know, because they stayed with the clubs. You know, Jorge Sanchez from Santos, Cesar Montes from Monterrey, and Eric Aguirre from Pachuca. You know? So I think.
Aside from the team, I think look at these youth, the development of youth, the team, the local youth. It's very good, all very nice, but I think you want to produce outstanding individuals that can challenge in a case for the full national team. You know, I think these Spanish players, you know, I think Edson Alvarez obviously. He's developed. So I don't think it's too depressing, if you know what I mean. All right, then, well, I think we can say this, that can potentially, and not in the too distant future, I think that's what.
Well, I don't know. Hi guys, I'm back. I don't know if I'm in control anymore.
You're there.
There's a chaotic end to our show here, guys. Everything's kind of going well. We're like 7 minutes past when we should typically stop the show. I think let's just wrap up the show. I think we're gonna go over to Jason on this. Jason, so you somehow found our Liga MX predictions from early on, or I don't know if it was before the playoffs or from January. I didn't realize that we did this. I didn't realize that.
See, it turns out we record the show, and
yeah.
If you look back, we see some things. So I mean, Liga MX is notoriously unpredictable. So, but we obviously were stupid enough to make predictions and record them. So I went back and looked before the season, all of our picks, and they were interesting. I guess you could say that the best picks of our group come from Cesar and Wiso, who had Toluca to win the title this season.
And they clearly won, right?
Almost semifinals, so not too shabby, right? No one had Tigres or Chivas winning the title this season. Tom, also a respectable pick with Monterrey. A solid season, of course, and getting knocked out by Tigres again in the Liga. I wish I could say Nayib's pick and my pick were respectable. They weren't. We each had Cruz Azul to win the title this season. As it turns out, Cruz Azul did not win the title this season, but probably next year. So just a little too early on those predictions. Tom is saying right now, good job. Tom, you were almost right.
I think what Tom is saying is I would have chosen the same thing. Good stuff, guys. I came very close to choosing that as well, and that you're the most wonderful people that I've ever met in my life. And you can't me. All right, guys. Tom's internet is failing. My computer just froze. Clearly, the internet no longer wants us anymore. So we're gonna have Nayib wrap up the show. Maybe Nayib, tell us any thoughts about whether it be about Liga MX, whether about the Mexican national team. I'm gonna give it to you. You're gonna have the mic. Anything, you're gonna wrap up the show, and then after that, we're gonna head on out.
Well, thank you. Cesar had a great chat with Tom, Jason tonight, and you, of course. A lot of rumors, the last week with Gullit Peña to Rangers, out of the blue, that rumor that he might actually go over there with Don Caixinha, who we respect a lot, great coach over there that we met when he was in Santos. So I don't know. I mean, if Gullit is going to Europe, I mean, come on, man. Chucky Lozano has to go to Europe. Orbelín has to go to Europe. Cesar Montes has to go to Europe.
Cesar Hernandez.
I'm going, dude. Let's do this.
I mean, if Gullit is going to Europe, I mean, come on. I mean, hopefully this summer will be one summer where we'll see multiple Mexican footballers head to El Viejo Continente and excel over there. And of course, players that are already in Europe, like Salcedo, like Layun, are probably going to move from to other clubs over there and see what happens. Chicharito is rumored to head to France to Olympique de Lyon. That is another one. Guillermo Ochoa might be on the move. So there's going to be a busy summer in that regard. And hopefully there'll be more new additions to European football from the Mexico side.
Yeah. Excellent stuff, Nayib. Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Nayib. Thank you, Jason. No thank you to the internet. We'll eventually figure that out. But and then thank you everyone to the chat. Thank you who watched us. And then we'll see you on the next episode of the Mexican Soccer Show next Monday. Have a good night, guys.
Buenas noches.